The colony of Syren Ridge rested on the edge of known space. It was built for work, not for war. Tall mining towers rose from red stone plains, and transport lights moved slowly through thin clouds of dust. People here believed danger was far away. Earth had signed many peace agreements, and the stars had been quiet for many years. Jiho stood inside the small defense station above the colony. He was young, but his eyes carried long hours of watching empty space. His job was simple. He watched sensors, checked signals, and reported strange movement. Most days, nothing happened. He often thought the station was built only to make people feel safe. Below him, workers moved between buildings. Children ran near the living blocks. The colony felt alive and calm. Jiho allowed himself a small smile as he sipped warm water from a metal cup. He wondered if he would ever see real action, or if his duty would end with nothing but quiet reports not far away. On Earth, leaders spoke of trade routes and shared research. Old wars were studied only in history halls. Many believed humanity had grown past fear. Old weapons were sealed, hidden, or forgotten. The idea of a great enemy felt like a story meant to scare children. The first warning came as a soft sound. Jiho frowned when his screen showed a ripple in deep space. It was weak, almost like static. He adjusted the scan and leaned closer. The signal grew sharper. Something was moving fast, faster than any ship he had seen. He called down to ground control and spoke in a steady voice. He reported unknown movement. The reply was calm. They told him to continue watching. The stars shifted. Without sound, shapes appeared. Dark forms broke from space itself, long and sharp, like claws tearing through a thin sheet. Jiho froze. His breath caught in his chest. These were not human ships. Their surfaces bent light in strange ways, and their movement felt wrong. Before any alarm could finish sounding, the attack began. Energy beams struck the outer towers. Light exploded across the plains. Metal twisted. Buildings fell. The sky burned bright white, then deep red. Shock waves rolled through the colony, throwing people from their feet. Jiho shouted into the console. His hands moved fast as he sent a warning signal toward Earth. The station shook. Panels burst. Sparks flew around him. He saw defense drones rise, firing small weapons that barely touched the enemy ships. The colony had defenses, but they were meant to stop pirates, not this. One enemy vessel turned toward the station. Jiho felt a deep fear press into his bones. He knew the station would not survive a direct hit. He sent the warning again, pushing all power into the signal. His message was broken, full of noise, but it carried one clear truth. The colonies were under attack. The station was struck. Jiho was thrown against the wall. Pain flashed through his body. The lights died. Smoke filled the room. He struggled to breathe as emergency power flickered on. The station began to fall, dragged down by gravity and fire. He forced himself to move. He crawled toward an escape pod as the structure screamed around him. Pieces broke away into the sky. He sealed the pod and launched moments before the station split apart. From the small window, Jiho watched Syren Ridge burn. On the surface, chaos ruled. People ran. Ships tried to lift off, only to be cut apart midair. The enemy moved with cold purpose, striking power centers and shelters. They did not speak. They did not pause. It was not a raid. It was destruction. Jiho's pod drifted, damaged but alive. He sent the signal again and again. Tears filled his eyes as he watched smoke rise where homes once stood. He felt helpless. He felt small. Anger followed fear, sharp and burning. He whispered that Earth had to answer. Humanity could not stay quiet now. Hours later, silence fell. The enemy ships vanished as suddenly as they arrived. What remained was ruin. Broken signals echoed through space. Jiho's pod was pulled toward a hidden rescue ship that had survived by chance. As he was brought aboard, he learned the truth. Searing Ridge was not the only colony attacked. Others had gone dark at the same time. Entire systems were silent. The rescue crew spoke in low voices. No one celebrated survival. They stared at the stars with fear and disbelief. Jiho sat alone, hands shaking, replaying the images in his mind. On Earth, alarms rang across continents. Leaders watched reports fill their screens. Colonies lost. Ships destroyed. No clear image of the enemy. Panic spread through networks, and streets. Commander Day stood in the Central Defense Hall, his face hard. He had trained for war that never came. Now it had arrived without warning. He ordered fleets to form defensive lines, even though he knew they were not enough. Deep beneath Earth's surface, sealed doors unlocked for the first time in decades. Lights turned on in long-forgotten halls. Myra stood before old screens, her heart racing as systems came alive. She had studied these places in theory, never believing she would see them used. The sleeping giants stirred. Back in orbit, Jiho looked toward the distant blue glow of Earth. He was only one survivor, but his message had reached home. Humanity was awake now. The quiet age was over. Earth did not sleep after the warnings arrived. Cities glowed through the night as alarms echoed across the planet. Screens in homes, streets, and transport hubs showed the same broken images from the colonies. Burning towers, falling ships, silent stars where life once stood. People watched in shock. Many had family in the outer systems. Many had believed the colonies were safe forever. Fear spread fast, but it did not turn into silence. It turned into anger. In the Central Defense Hall, Commander Day stood before a wide star map. Red marks showed lost colonies. Yellow lines showed enemy movement, guessed from fragments of data. His jaw was tight. His hands rested on the table as officers waited for orders. Human fleets were strong, but they were built for patrol and peace. Day knew this enemy would tear them apart in open war. Still, he gave commands. Ships were recalled. Crews were rushed into service. Defensive lines were formed around Earth, and Mars. He spoke clearly and without fear. He told them humanity would not fall back into the dark. Across Earth, old military bases opened. Training centers filled with volunteers. Some were young. Some were old. Many had never held a weapon before, but they stood in line anyway. Humanity had been attacked, and the response was not hiding. Jiho was brought to Earth aboard a damaged rescue ship. He walked through long white halls, still smelling smoke in his memory. Doctors checked his wounds, but he barely felt the pain. His mind stayed on Searing Ridge and the faces he could not save. Officials asked him to speak. He told them everything. He described the shapes of the enemy ships, their speed, their silence. He told them the truth without fear or pride. The colonies were not weak. They were unready. His words spread through command networks. They reached Earth's leaders and military planners. What he said removed doubt. This was not a test. It was war. Deep below the surface, Mira walked through halls older than most cities. Thick doors lined the walls, each marked with faded signs. These places were built during humanity's worst years, when survival had demanded terrible choices. She stood before a massive control room. Screens awakened one by one, showing system names long removed from public records. Power levels rose. Data flowed like a waking mind. Mira felt fear, but also responsibility. She knew why these systems were sealed. The weapons they controlled were too strong, too destructive. They had saved humanity once, but nearly broke it afterward. Now the choice returned. She contacted the Defense Council and spoke carefully. She explained what was waiting. Ancient war machines, massive ships hidden beyond the planets, soldiers enhanced beyond normal limits, tools made to fight extinction. Some leaders argued. Others stayed silent. Day listened closely. He remembered old lessons from training, stories told in quiet voices. He knew these weapons were real. Before a final decision could be made, new alarms sounded. Enemy forces appeared near Mars. This time, Earth's fleets were waiting. Ships moved into position. Defense platforms powered up. Space filled with engine light and weapon fire. Humanity fought back with everything it had. The battle was fierce and fast. Human ships struck hard, but enemy vessels moved with deadly precision. Several Earth ships were destroyed within minutes. Others barely escaped. They watched the battle from command. He gave orders calmly, but inside he knew the truth. Even prepared, humanity was losing. On Earth, people watched the fight live. They saw human ships fall. They saw Mars' orbit burn. Fear returned, stronger than before. Myra made her choice. She stood before the central control and placed her hand on an old panel. The system accepted her command. Across hidden locations, locks disengaged. Power surged through ancient cores. The sleeping giants woke further. Far beyond Mars, something massive moved. A shape larger than any human ship emerged from darkness. Its hull carried scars from battles long past. Its systems roared back to life after decades of silence. Enemy sensors noticed it. Too late, the giant fired once. A wave of force crossed space. Enemy ships vanished in light and fire. The battle ended in seconds. Silence followed, heavy and unreal. Human ships pulled back in shock. Command crews stared at their screens. They felt his breath slow. He knew what he had just seen. Humanity had shown its teeth. Across Earth, the fear shifted. People cheered. Others cried. Many simply stood in silence, realizing the past had returned. Chi-Ho watched from a medical bay screen. His heart pounded as the giant drifted into view. He did not feel joy. He felt grim relief. The enemy could bleed. Mira closed her eyes for a moment. She knew this was only the beginning. The giants could protect humanity, but they could also change it forever. Messages flooded space. Other powers noticed the battle. Whispers spread through the galaxy. Humans were not weak builders anymore. Commander Day gave a single order. Earth would not chase the enemy yet. More giants would awaken. Control would be learned. Humanity would not repeat its old mistakes. In orbit, Chi-Ho looked again at Earth. He understood now. Humanity had slept because it could. Now it was awake because it had to be. The war had truly begun. The days after the battle near Mars were heavy with tension. Space was quiet, but no one believed the silence would last. Earth worked without rest. Shipyards burned with light as workers repaired damage and built new defenses. Data flowed between command centers every second. Chi-Ho was moved from medical care to a secure base. His body healed faster than his thoughts. At night, he dreamed of fire and falling towers. During the day, officers asked him questions again and again. He answered each time with calm honesty. He wanted no more colonies to fall unprepared. Commander Day walked through the main fleet hangar. He watched crews train beside machines older than most nations. The giant that had saved Mars now rested in orbit, guarded and silent. Seeing it up close filled him with mixed feelings. It was powerful, but it carried the weight of history. He met with strategists, engineers, and historians. They studied old records left by the people who built the giants. These machines were not mindless weapons. They were designed with limits, checks, and human control. The past had tried to prevent its own mistakes. Mira barely slept. She moved between underground sites, waking more systems with careful steps. Each giant was different. Some were ships. Some were planetary defenses. Some were human-shaped machines built to stand on broken worlds. She felt their presence like quiet giants listening. Every activation required codes, voices, and intent. She made sure no single person could control them alone. Humanity would share the burden. News of the Mars battle spread beyond human space. Alien governments watched with new interest and fear. Trade slowed. Borders closed. The enemy who attacked the colonies stayed hidden. But their scouts were seen at the edge of systems. They were watching. The next attack came near a gas giant far from Earth. This time, human sensors caught it early. Day ordered a mixed fleet to intercept. Modern ships flew beside one awakened giant. Jiho was aboard a command vessel, serving as an advisor for colony defense. The enemy appeared as before, silent and sharp. They moved to strike fast, expecting weak resistance. They were wrong. Human ships formed clean lines. They supported the giant instead of hiding behind it. Weapons fire filled space. The giant absorbed heavy hits, its shields holding firm. Then it moved forward. It did not rush. It advanced with steady force, firing controlled bursts. Enemy ships broke formation. Some tried to flee. Human fighters chased them down. The battle ended with human victory. Losses were taken, but the enemy was pushed back fully. For the first time, humanity had won a battle without surprise. Cheers filled the command decks. Jiho felt pride rise in his chest. He saw discipline, not panic. Humanity was learning. Back on Earth, people followed the news closely. Fear was still present, but it no longer ruled. Children watched lessons about space safety. Workers volunteered extra shifts. Artists painted images of giants standing beside human ships. Mira watched these images in silence. She knew the danger of worshiping power. She increased oversight and safety limits. Giants were tools, not gods. Enemy raids continued, but each one met stronger resistance. Humanity adapted fast. Old fear turned into sharp focus. The enemy began to lose ships at a rate they had not expected. Jiho was sent to help plan evacuation routes for outer systems. He used his experience to improve early warning networks. Colonies practiced drills. Shelters were reinforced. Humanity refused to be caught asleep again. During a quiet moment, Jiho stood by a viewing window and looked at Earth. He thought of Siren Ridge. He promised himself its loss would have meaning. Mira received troubling data. Enemy communication patterns suggested frustration. They were changing plans. They were gathering forces. Day received the same report. He knew what it meant. A larger strike was coming. The Defense Council met and agreed. More giants would awaken. Not all at once, but enough to protect Earth and key systems. Humanity would stand its ground. Deep in a distant facility, the largest giant began to wake. Its size was beyond anything seen before. Power systems hummed like a rising storm. Old logs played through speakers, voices from the past warning and guiding. Mira listened carefully. She repeated the final command phrase. The giant answered. Across space, sensors flared. The enemy noticed. For the first time since the war began, they hesitated. Jiho felt the shift. He felt it in the way officers spoke, in the steadiness of hands at control panels. Humanity was no longer reacting. They were ready. Far beyond human space, enemy fleets gathered. They prepared to crush Earth before more giants could rise. They believed numbers would still win. Earth watched the stars and waited. The sleeping age was gone. Humanity stood awake, united and unafraid of its own strength. The first full-scale enemy invasion began at the edge of the Sol system. They came in waves, black ships moving with quiet precision. Sensors detected them before they reached the inner planets. Humanity had learned to watch, to prepare, to fight with knowledge rather than fear. Commander Day moved through the Central Command. His hands rested on the console as his eyes scanned the real-time maps. Red symbols approached Earth. Behind them, streaks of smaller ships followed in formation. It was more than any fleet humanity had faced in decades. But this time, they were not alone. The giants had risen. Orbiting planets and hidden facilities hummed with power. Machines from decades past moved with purpose. Ships older than anyone remembered joined modern vessels in tight formation. Day gave orders with calm authority. Human pilots and engineers responded with sharp precision. Ji-ho was aboard a mid-system command ship. He had been sent to coordinate defense and evacuation for outer colonies. His body carried old scars, but his mind was alert. He had watched colonies burn, and he would not let that happen again. The enemy struck first at a mining colony near Jupiter. They expected easy victory. They found resistance. Smaller human fleets moved to engage. Giants arrived and changed the battle instantly. Massive weapons flared, scattering enemy ships like leaves in a storm. Human pilots followed through, striking with precise attacks. The enemy faltered. On Earth, Mira monitored every move. She coordinated the giants with modern fleets. Every decision mattered. She watched the lives of millions hang in balance. Every command she gave was careful, measured, and precise. The enemy adapted quickly. They tried to split human forces, hoping to catch giants isolated. But humanity had learned the value of unity. Fleets moved as one. Giants moved as one. Systems communicated instantaneously, ensuring no vessel acted without support. In the middle of the battle, a massive enemy ship broke through near Saturn. It fired beams that cut through human ships like paper. Ji-ho saw panic among the pilots. Day remained calm and ordered a coordinated counterattack. The giants moved first, surrounding the ship and drawing fire. Modern fleets followed through. The enemy ship faltered. Humanity had not just survived. It had fought with precision and coordination. Elsewhere, smaller colonies and stations prepared for strikes. They had drills. They had plans. Human soldiers stood ready. When the enemy arrived, they did not flee. They fought back with courage and determination. Many of these soldiers were young and inexperienced, but they carried the spirit of humanity that no weapon could break. Mira saw the weight of history in every giant. They were not just weapons. They carried knowledge and the memory of sacrifices long past. Every strike reflected lessons humanity had learned the hard way. Every maneuver was calculated with care. The giants were more than metal and power. They were symbols of human resilience. Ji-ho moved from one command post to another, coordinating pilots and ship movements. He saw fear, yes, but he also saw determination. Every time a colony was threatened, he acted. Every time a pilot hesitated, he guided. Humanity was awake, and it was fighting as one. The enemy began to retreat. They realized humanity had not only risen, but had grown stronger than anticipated. Their scouts reported losses far greater than expected. The invaders had thought humans weak, easy prey. They had been wrong. Earth did not celebrate victory yet. The war was far from over. But humanity had shown its will. Every colony that survived, every ship that returned, every giant that stood tall was proof that humans could rise from destruction. Day looked out from the command center. He felt pride, but also caution. There were more battles to fight. There were more threats coming. But he knew the people, the soldiers, and the giants would stand together. Jiho returned to the front lines near Neptune. He fought alongside human fleets, protecting other colonies from suffering as Seer and Ridge had. Each victory was hard-earned. Each loss was remembered. Humanity no longer slept. It watched, it fought, and it survived. Myra prepared for the next moves. She understood that the giants were more than tools. They were the memory of a species that refused to disappear. Each activation carried responsibility, but also hope. Across the solar system, humans looked to the stars differently now. They were not merely builders of colonies. They were defenders. They were warriors when needed. The enemy had discovered the truth that humanity had long known about itself. Humans never stayed down. The enemy fleets, beaten but not gone, retreated beyond known systems. Humanity used the time to strengthen defenses, awaken more giants, and prepare for the battles still ahead. Every planet, every station, every ship contributed to a single purpose: survival and unity. In orbit, Jiho stood beside a giant, watching distant stars. He thought of those who were lost and those still fighting. He knew humanity would endure, not just because of weapons, but because of will, courage, and the refusal to sleep through danger again. The first full-scale victory was earned, and humanity had shown the galaxy that sleeping giants could awaken when the world demanded it. The final battle came when the enemy thought they could crush humanity once and for all. They returned with a fleet larger than any before, determined to destroy Earth and its colonies. Their ships moved with confidence, expecting weakness and fear. Instead, they found preparation and resolve. Commander Day stood in the central command on Earth. Every sensor, every ship, every giant was under observation. He spoke in calm, precise commands. His words were clear and measured. This was not only a fight for survival. It was a fight to show the galaxy that humanity could not be taken lightly. Jiho prepared with the fleet. He had survived loss and seen fear, but now he felt determination. His role was to guide and protect. Every colony that had once been vulnerable now had plans, defenses, and pilots ready. Humanity had learned the cost of sleeping. Myra moved between control stations. She oversaw the giants, the ancient machines of power that now answered human commands. Every system hummed with life. She reminded herself that these were tools, not gods. Yet she could not deny the pride she felt seeing them move again in defense of life. The enemy struck first near the outer colonies. Their ships fired and moved with deadly speed. Human defenses engaged immediately. Fighters rushed forward. Giants moved in calculated patterns, absorbing hits and returning fire. Modern fleets flanked them, cutting off escape routes. The enemy was shocked by the coordination. Battles raged across multiple fronts. No longer was humanity reacting. Humans acted with precision, intelligence, and courage. Every time the enemy tried a new tactic, humans adapted faster. Every attack was met with strategy, not panic. In one sector near Saturn, a massive enemy flagship tried to break through. Its weapons were powerful, and many human ships were destroyed. Jiho watched from a command vessel. He calculated movements, sent orders, and watched pilots respond with courage beyond his expectations. Giants moved in, containing the attack, allowing humans to strike with force. The enemy ship faltered and was destroyed. Other giants joined battles near Jupiter and Mars. Each one worked with humans, not alone. Pilots coordinated with the massive machines, using them as shields and weapons. The synergy between old and new made humanity nearly unstoppable. On Earth, civilians watched transmissions of the battle. They saw destruction, but they also saw courage. They saw humans standing beside massive machines, holding the line, protecting one another. Hope and fear intertwined, but courage grew stronger. Mira noticed enemy patterns shifting. The invaders tried to divide humans, hoping to trap individual giants. But every movement was anticipated. Humans moved as one. The giants responded with precision. Coordination was flawless. The enemy began to retreat. Their confidence shattered. They realized the cost of attacking a species that remembered its past, that had learned from history, and that refused to sleep through danger again. They ordered caution. Humanity would not chase recklessly. The victory was real, but the war had taught lessons about restraint. Every ship returned to formation. Every giant stood ready, but not all at once. Humans knew the value of control. G. Ho walked aboard a giant now resting in orbit above Earth. He felt awe at its size and power. It had saved countless lives, yet it was not the machine that made humanity strong. It was the humans inside and around it. Courage, willpower, and memory were humanity's true weapons. Mira deactivated several giants, returning them to Silent Watch. They were tools for survival, not trophies. Humanity would use them wisely, not recklessly. The sleeping giants would wait, but humanity would never forget their lessons. Commander Day looked across Earth from orbit. Humanity had survived, and more than that, it had shown strength, resilience, and intelligence. The colonies were safe, and humans stood united. They had risen above fear, above surprise, and above despair. The enemy retreated beyond the edges of known space. They had learned that humanity was not a species to be underestimated. They had awakened sleeping giants, but more than that, they had awakened human will, determination, and courage. Jiho thought of Siren Ridge and the colonies lost. Their memories strengthened him. Humanity would not be caught unready again. Every pilot, soldier, and civilian had contributed to the survival of the species. Mira watched the stars. She knew the giants would be needed again someday, but she also knew humanity had changed. Its greatest strength was not weapons, not machines, but memory, resilience, and unity. Earth and the colonies celebrated cautiously. There was relief, but also vigilance. Humanity had shown the galaxy what it could do. The sleeping giants were no longer just legends. They were proof that humans would rise when challenged, and that they would never sleep through danger again. The stars were quiet now, but humanity watched, ready for whatever came next.